Oakland's Mayor Sheng Thao says the city is headed in the right direction. The mayor touting her accomplishments in her annual State of the City address, as she, of course, faces a recall vote in just a few weeks. The mayor discussed a number of the city's challenges, but also highlighted some of the wins for public safety, announcing $2 million from the federal government to address gun violence prevention. Thao also said the city is turning the corner when it comes to crime.
I can tell you today that crime is down. Burglaries, car thefts, and break-ins are all down. Speaking to our local business owners, they've even remarked that there's a lot less broken glass on the streets.
Mayor Thao also pledged to continue making strides in clearing homeless encampments and getting people into shelters. Though critics have expressed concern about the city's budget deficit, some council members have told us that the city is working from a contingency worst-case scenario budget, and the mayor needs to be more transparent about where the cuts are coming from.
People deserve to know the truth. And as much pushback as I'm getting for exposing these realities, I'm going to keep doing it so that the public has a sense of what's actually going on and what to anticipate.
The budget plan depends heavily on the sale of the Oakland Coliseum. The city recently renegotiated the terms of that sale, and while it's still on track, the majority of the money is not going to be available until May in a lump sum payment, leaving a $48 million hole to fill. Joining me live now is Oakland Mayor Sheng Thao. Thanks for joining us today. Now, you had a big night last night with the State of the City.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we know cuts have to be made to the budget. We're talking about this huge deficit. You've said that there's not going to be any cuts to police and fire, public safety. But can you tell us more specifics about what might be cut?
Well, I want to make sure that everybody understands the full context. Walking into City Hall, we inherited a $360 million deficit due to the pandemic. We're experiencing this just like the state of California, just like many other big cities. And so there's two schools of thought, right? Understanding that we have a deficit and understanding that crime is at the forefront. We had one school of thought where you saw Councilmember Ramachandran wants to have police officers demoted from 678 officers to 610 officers. In my opinion, we don't have enough officers to begin with. Another, and a part of that is shutting down 5 fire stations. You know, and as a leader of the city of Oakland, you know, maybe the freshman council member doesn't understand the government's budget. But again, as a leader, we have to come up with those ideas of how do we actually keep our residents safe, all the while tackling the budget. And so we're in very dire times right now, but I refuse to actually take away resources from our public safety departments, such as police and fire.
Okay.
And this why we brought to the forefront the Coliseum sale. With the Coliseum sale, we're actually moving from $105 million within this fiscal year to $125 million in this fiscal year. I also want to say that city staff has been available and willing to brief the council members. These 2 council members have been briefed for 2 hours, answering all questions. And so to me, this is just politics.
Okay, so help us understand then what might be cut, if not police and fire, because we know there is several contingency plans here about if this money doesn't come through from the Coliseum site, whatever sort of economic situation we're going to be facing next year, where might we see these cuts?
So again, the Coliseum sale was brought to the forefront not as a silver bullet to actually fix our decades-long structural deficit. It was only to soften the landing and narrow that gap. And so with that being said, I want to remind everyone that we're going to be receiving $47 million more within this fiscal year. This fiscal year starts from, you know, July 1 until June 30th. And so in the PSA, the purchase and sale agreement, all of this is for public consumption. Even the contingency plan is for public consumption. We've already started making those contingency plans. We are started implementing that already.
Okay, but can we understand what's in that contingency plan, where we might see the cuts? That's the real question.
If you let me finish, I was getting into that. So what I was going to say is that, again, this is for public consumption. mentioned, it's on our website. It's completely transparent. It tells you that since March, we've already frozen all vacant positions. Come just last month, we've frozen more vacant positions. And then now we're waiting for Q4, our Q4 budget revenue report and our Q1 report, so that we can, if we need to, make decisions on if we need to actually figure out other mechanisms in which we generate more revenues for the city or how we close that gap. But
Okay.
until we get those numbers, you can't plan. And this is a normal process.
It is, but I
Refreshing-
think people just want to
refreshing council
know
members-
where we might
Yes.
see those cuts.
Exactly. It's in the contingency plan, right? And so those decisions are made by the city council. The contingency plan was voted by the city council. We all know that it is the city council that passes the budget. So for Councilmember Ramachandran and Councilmember Reed and Councilmember Gayo to pretend like they don't understand, it's just playing political games.
Okay.
And again, I'm not willing to play those games and take away resources from police officers and firefighters, because you hear all the critiques and the complaints, but do you hear solutions from them?
So
No,
speaking,
because they want to cut those resources.
I hear you. Speaking of politics, though, we don't have much time, but I just want to touch on the recall election. It's coming up very soon. I can only imagine this is a very stressful time for you. How are you feeling about the recall, and would you like to send any message to the voters quickly?
You know, I feel good about the recall. We've been out with community. Community knows that this is being driven by a billionaire who's invested $2 billion just this year in coal. We know that they want to bring coal through Oakland, and I'm a staunch supporter of saying no to coal. We know that asthma is at its highest rates within our Black community in West Oakland, and so they're trying to buy this seat and buy this election. It's undemocratic. Many of our strongest leaders, like Congresswoman Barbara Lee, has stated, vote no on the recall.
Okay. Okay. All right. Mayor Sheng Thao, thank you for your time this afternoon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ann.